All right, welcome back. We're ready for Christina Rollins. She'll be speaking about post-retirement employment system enhancements.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Oh, no?
Yeah, turn it on.
Oh, thanks. It would help to turn it on. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, good morning. I'm Christina Rollins. I'm the team leader over the membership and post-retirement employment determinations team and the state Social Security administrator team, your two favorite division areas at CalPERS. Today I'm going to be talking about the working after retirement side, and I'm going to be discussing some post-retirement employment system enhancements that we have both internally and externally to ensure that employers, CalPERS, and our retirees are in compliance with the post-retirement employment laws. And I'm sure many of you are aware that a lot of these retirees now have been receiving letters from past violations, and these letters are going to them. They may have been following up with you regarding these violations that they've had in the past. And really our goal here is to educate all of you, educate our retirees, and to prevent this from happening in the future, where we can put a lot of stops early on in the process to avoid these penalties that retirees are exposed to by working after retirement. So my team, our objective and the objective of our whole team is to assist with hiring and retaining retired annuitants, ensuring compliance with CalPERS post-retirement employment laws, and to provide education and resources for our employers so that our employers have a better understanding of what they should be watching out for, what they should be looking for when they are hiring retired annuitants to come back and work. So we have some upcoming myCalPERS system enhancements. These enhancements, some will be coming up this fiscal year. We're hoping a few of them will be here by the next SEAC, so we'll have a follow-up discussion at that point. And a lot of other ones we expect to go in by September, so by the next fiscal year, early next fiscal year. So one thing we're doing as far as system enhancements is sending a welcome letter to all retired annuitants. So when a retired annuitant appointment is entered into myCalPERS, the retiree will receive a welcome letter. That letter will let them know that they're being appointed to a retired annuitant position. It will refer them to publications that they can read as far as working after retirement. And on the back, that letter will have a fact sheet or an information sheet that will have all of the violations that retirees want to make sure that they're compliant with. The 960 hours, the 180-day separation, special comp, and so forth. So it'll have that on the back, and then the front will just be a letter saying you're a retired annuitant, make sure you stay within your hours and the rules, and they'll have the other resources they can refer to online as well. So the 960-hour limit. So retirees, we have some internal items in place to catch these 960-hour violators before they continue to work and their overpayment and their consequences keep getting larger. So we'll be running reports every month. We'll be running reports to see how many hours these retirees are working. We'll be monitoring how close they are to getting to the 960 hours, and we'll be doing outreach when they get close to approaching that limit so they know that they should stop working. In addition to that, we will still send our courtesy warning letters. Those letters are the letters that let them know that they're approaching a certain hour limit that is getting close to the 960 hours, and they should probably keep watching their hours and make sure that they stop working when they're approaching that 960-hour limit. Right now, we send the letters at 700 hours and 800 hours, but from what we've been hearing from a lot of our employers, is that by 800 hours, it may be too late to send those letters out, right? Because it takes about a month for the payroll to report it. They get these letters, and they may be, in fact, really close or over that 960 by the time they get those letters. So we're in discussions to send that letter out at 600 and 700 hours, which I think would be better for the employers and for the retirees. And when we send these letters out, the employer will be CC'd on those letters as well. So you guys will be receiving those letters. Another item we have in place is special compensation reporting. So as most of you know, retired annuitants cannot receive any kind of special compensation or additional benefits in retirement. So we will have something in place that will have a warning that will, when an employer tries to report special compensation for a retired annuitant, a warning that says, retired annuitants can't receive special compensation and or benefits. It won't stop you from entering that compensation, but if there is a warning so that you know that they should not be receiving any additional benefits or compensation. And that's your cue at that time to remind yourself that no additional compensation, no additional benefits can be paid out to that retiree. They are supposed to only be getting their pay rate that they're getting as working in that retired annuitant position. The 180-day wait period. So for retirees, they have to wait 180 days before they come back to retire. So if they retire on January 1st, they have to wait 180 days. They come back in July, I think that's 180 days. They have to wait before they can come back and work. So there's going to be an indicator in our system that if a retired annuitant appointment is entered before that 180-day wait period, then that retiree will not, it'll send a message that that retiree cannot come back to work because it's too early to come back. And then also, I don't know if this affects the school districts, but we have retired annuitants that come back to work as a result of the wildfires that have been going on in California for years. The governor has released several executive orders that allows retirees to come back and work as retired annuitants if they're helping in that wildfire relief and not be subject to some of the working after retirement rules. So we will have an indicator in our system that if one of those retirees is working and under that executive order, we'll check that box and then they will be exempt from some of the working after retirement provisions. And then the last thing, and this is big as well, for the retirees themselves, they'll now be able to log on and they'll be able to go to the member self-service feature on CalPERS online, and they'll be able to look at their hours. So their hours will be reported there, so they will have the opportunity to go out and view their hours to see what has been reported to them by the employer as of the date that they are looking.
Okay, Christina?
Yes. Hi.
In the welcome letter to your retirees, when it talks about their hour limit, is it also going to state that it's for all hours worked? We had an incident where the retiree was very careful of their hours, but because overtime is not something that's typically reported, they didn't count the 5 hours of overtime. It took them over by a half an hour.
Okay.
Okay. They went over 960 and a half hours.
No. Okay, yeah, the letter will have that it's the all hours combined and then among all the different employers as well, the 960. So it'll be clear on that.
And it will also be very clear that it's no permanent position, even though it's under the 960.
Yes, it should say, I have to check that part, but they're coming back to work as a retired annuitant. That information I think will be on the information sheet. I'll double check that for you.
Because that is something that is contested.
And a lot of that too is on the employer too, right? So when you guys are hiring, you guys making sure that you do that communication, that you're only putting them in these retired annuitant designated positions, and that they know that this is a retired annuitant designated position and this should not be any permanent part-time or any kind of position that somebody can get membership for.
Christina, we have a question from the SEAC mailbox.
Oh, okay.
What about elected officials? If you have a CalPERS retiree and they become elected officials, what happens in that case?
Well, that could, if they're an elected official, some elected officials will not be subject to the 960 hours. Some can also have an allowance suspension if they worked previously in an elected official position, the same one that they retired from. So it would depend on the elected official position. So if the person writing in has a specific example, it'll just depend on what kind of elected official they are, what kind of board they're coming to, et cetera. So we can provide that answer to them offline.
All right,
because it gets very specific. Vina, you have a question? Vina has a question.
Veena from Orange County. You were mentioning about the 180 days limit, like that waiting period.
Yes.
But if we have already submitted the resolution to your office, then it will not stop us, right?
Yes. So what Vina's asking is that for the 180-day rule, there are some exceptions to that. If an agency submits a resolution saying that they need somebody to be exempt from that 180-day rule violation, then they'll send that resolution to us, we'll approve it, and then, yes, you would still be able to have that person work.
I mean, it won't stop us from entering.
No, it should not stop you from entering it. Hi.
Erica from Riverside
Hi,
County.
Erica.
The welcome letter and the letter when they are approaching 700 or 800 hours, will that be available in different languages? We have a lot of retirees that aren't English speakers.
That's a good question. Currently, no, but it's funny that you mentioned that because this literally came up as an idea for our division literally last week to have some of our retired annuitant communication in other languages. It hasn't gone anywhere yet. This was just an idea that literally came up a couple of weeks ago by somebody on our team, but we can look into that. But right now, it is not being sent in different languages. Depending on the language, we do have team members who speak other languages that have been actually able to assist a lot of our retirees that have been calling. So we would encourage them to call us right now in the interim until we can figure that out. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Mike Stribling, Riverside County. I was just curious, the letters that are getting sent out to employers and employees regarding being a violation of going over the 960 hours, I'm wondering if those could be sent to employers first with maybe a 10-day period to respond before sending it to the employee. Because we get calls from employees when they receive these letters freaking out, and we look into it and we find out that they weren't in fact over the limit, and we're able to explain to CalPERS why.
Yeah, right now I think we CC the employers now, and so that's we have a lot of these letters, unfortunately, to send out, and it is the retiree. The onus, the consequence, a lot of those are on the retiree, and a lot of these retirees have stopped working for the agency, so there isn't a way for us right now to send those to the employer beforehand, but we do encourage the employer to reach out to us directly once the retiree, or once you get the letter, or once the retiree has notified you, and we'll definitely discuss with you and talk about documentation and anything, other information you can get to us.
Another comment about those letters.
Okay.
That I noticed that some of them are going only to the employing district and not being CC'd to the county office. So we had some situations where the district received this letter like 30 days earlier. I had no idea. And then I reached out to the appropriate unit and they were able to get me a list.
Okay.
But there were a lot of them that we weren't even aware of, so we weren't able to start working on them right away.
Okay, that could be an oversight on our area because I think we're CCing the employer, like whether we see the district and they're coming there, so we can make sure that we send going forward letters, make sure the COE is on those letters as well. I got another comment about that from the break too, so we will do that. Are there any other questions before I move on?
Sheila Walker, Tehama County Department of Ed. We have one person that you guys, that we're at the county office, we didn't get any notification, but that employers did. She worked with 2 different employers. And I lost my train of thought. Anyway, when they work for 2 different employers, how are we supposed to be able to track? This happened clear back in 2016. You just notified us in December of 2019. I have a system at the county office of where I check the hours, but didn't realize that because it's 2 different districts, you have to have the same number of hours for it to bring it up. But it's just it's like a perfect storm situation where nothing got checked off. There was no way to know that they were actually going over.
Yeah, well, going forward, so yes, there was in the past, there were some issues with getting the communication out to the employers, to both employers. But going forward, all of those notifications will be, the hours are updated for all employers. Those are the letters that the employer will be getting. The retiree as well, a lot of the onus is on that retiree to make sure that they're the ones, again, that are going to be receiving those huge penalties and consequences. And if they're working multiple employers, it's their responsibility to ensure that they are not working over the 960-hour limit. There's only so much the employer can do.
There's actually a report you can run in Cognos.
To see all the, right, to see all the, to,
It shows all the agencies.
Hold on. One moment.
It shows all the agencies. Yes.
There's a Cognos report called Retired Annuitants Hours Worked, and you can run it. It'll show you all of the hours in your agency and then also the hours for the outside agency. So it'll give you a total of both.
okay, any other questions before I move on?
Claudette, LA County. The field for the retiree hours worked, can that be a calculated field? Because right now it accepts anything you put in there.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that question, Claudette?
The field that's called hours worked, so can it be a calculated field where it calculates the earnings divided by the pay rate rather than the county having to put the number in?
No, we cannot do that right now. However, there will be payroll verification. A lot of these errors for these retirees working over have been a result of payroll errors. So we do have validations in place to ensure that it's not a payroll error. But there's nothing that we can do ahead of time right now to calculate that for you guys.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions about the enhancements? Okay, so again, education and resources are very important to both the retiree and the employer in making sure that the retirees are compliant with the post-retirement employment laws. So starting this fiscal year, actually our first one will be in March, our team will start hosting post-retirement employment webinars for the employers. You can look out, we'll be sending a circular letter with the dates and how to register for those post-retirement employment webinars, and we encourage you, the districts, to sign up for these webinars. Similar to a lot of you I know have signed up and attended our Social Security, our State Social Security Administrator webinars, so it'll be very similar to that, except we'll be talking about topics related to working after retirement. Our first one in March is going to be about what you need to know about hiring CalPERS retirees. So most of you know the things to watch out for, but we're just going to do a refresher for our first webinar on things you should know before you hire the retired annuitants and things you should communicate to your retired annuitants when they come back to work. We'll be talking for our next webinar, and we'll be doing one every quarter. We'll be discussing the system enhancements for employers. I'm giving you guys a heads up now of what those enhancements are going to be. By that time, hopefully we can show you screenshots. We'll be able to navigate through the system and show you some of those enhancements as part of that webinar. Then we'll talk about hot topics for post-retirement employment, and we'll allow all of you guys to submit questions to us beforehand, and we'll talk about any topics you have at your districts. Any scenarios you want to bring up, we'll be discussing those topics as part of the webinar. So we'll just be kind of like an open session where the employers can ask us questions and we'll answer those. And then last, we'll be teaming up. We're working after retirement and the State Social Security Administrator to talk about post-retirement employment and Social Security and how those tie in for employers. So that will be our last webinar, and I think that will be in November or December. The education, like I just said, is very important to us. And I just wanted to pose a question to all of you. Are there any ideas that you guys have that would better educate your districts on making sure that retired annuitants are compliant with the laws? It's been really hard to, we hear a lot of issues with the districts not maybe knowing the information, not getting it, maybe not communicating it. So we wanted to know if you guys had any other ideas that we could do for the districts that may help them.
Hi, Debbie from Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. The webinars that will be live, obviously, will they be available to like replay at a later date?
They will not be able to be replayed. It's similar to our state Social Security ones. We cannot replay them at this time.
Like I hold quarterly meetings, and having that webinar available to play at my quarterly meeting when I have all of my districts there would be a great way to get information out.
Right. The slides, you can request the slides or get the slides too and present that to them, but it can't be replayed or as of right now.
Well, maybe in the future, but sadly, when we talk, even though we have your slides, they don't think we're telling them the right information. They want to hear it right from PERS. So just a thought in the future.
Okay. Can I chime in and make an offer? So for events like that, where you guys have all of your districts already there, we can certainly coordinate to have somebody come out if they want to hear it from us. Renee, myself, Christina, we've all been out and about, so we would be happy to coordinate that with you if you'd like. Okay.
We're going on a road trip. Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah, so that's a great idea, and hopefully that will help too. It'll help all of you guys as well. Is there anything else you guys can think of, Vina?
One more thing, sorry.
It's okay.
One more question I have is some of our districts, they are hiring retirees, like PERS retirees, for example, stipend type assignment like coaching, ticket collectors and all. So we are having hard time to have them report anything to PERS because there is no salary schedule, there is no rate. It's same like coaching assignment type.
Yeah, that communication has to be with your districts to let them know, again, the rules, what they should be reporting, that these people are extra help, they're working in retired annuitant positions, and so forth. And if there's any questions about what they're receiving, the kind of pay they're receiving, then you should definitely send that to us to do a review.
There is no salary schedule. They cannot hire them
Right.
that as a retiree.
They should be in a retired annuitant designated position that is on the salary schedule.
With the salary schedule. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before I move on? So even though this is not my area, I'm going to do a couple of slides for our disability and death benefits division regarding Assembly Bill 672 for disability retirees. So this was a bill that, a law that went into effect January 1st, and it basically prohibits a person who has retired from disability from going back to work their same job that they disability retired from, or going back to do similar duties that they did as a result of their disability retirement. So employers must provide CalPERS the nature of the employment and the duties the person will perform to make sure that they're not doing similar duties to the position that they disability retired from. So the disability area has done communication efforts regarding this new law. So they've released a circular letter, which was released in December. The number is here on my screen. And they also sent a letter to disability retirees that may be affected by this. So they sent those in December as well. And then lastly, for you as the employer, if you get these disability retirees and you may be questioning their duties and if they're similar or they're doing the same job, you should contact CalPERS to make sure that your disability retiree is in compliance before you hire them to work back Are there any questions? Any other questions about anything?
Hi, Sean from LA County. I was just actually, since you were soliciting about retirees, one of the things that I wanted to just give you feed or mention is that one of the things I still hear often with regard to employers and retirees is the confusion or misunderstanding of retirees going back to work for an employer as a independent contractor. That often gets very complex, but unfortunately I still hear at times, oh, I'll just hire him as an independent contractor and then it's not subject, which I know is not the case. So that's all I wanted to say in terms of feedback since you were asking. And then the other thing is I think for the last 3 years, we've been hosting big workshops for all of our districts in LA County. And it's been fantastic. So we have PERS comes down and does one. The districts love it. We have huge participation. We do the same thing with STIRS as well. And we try to do that once every year.
Okay,
so.
yeah, we would love to come down.
And we love having you. So we intend to do it every year as long as you guys
independent
are
contractor is a good subject to bring up. And we'll make sure we add that to our first webinar, because we know it comes up a lot still, is hiring independent contractors. I think that's all the time I have. If you guys have any questions, you guys can see me after whenever we have the next break. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Next up is Megan Corte with myCalPERS Enhancements.
Good morning. I brought my bodyguard, Toni Carlson, with me. She's also my muse. Okay, so we've not talked about system enhancements at all today. So just kidding. We actually have two that are not really program specific that I'm going to give you a little overview of. Both of these are coming with the March release, which is the first weekend in March. The first one that we're doing is we are revamping our business partner relationship process entirely. This is to make it easier on you. Instead of doing a form, we are having the whole thing, the whole certification process, be on page through myCalPERS. So when you go through this new process, you'll be asked to identify the third party, put in their contact name and phone number just so we have it in our records. And then all in the same page for any service that you're asking them to perform on your behalf. You'll have check boxes to go through and select for each type of service and then for which contract you want. And then you only have to push one button instead of doing 9 or 12 or however many it was before. We will also be sending a notification once the relationship's been approved. If for any reason we need to update it or change it, when it's being terminated, and then if we need to reject it, we will also send out a notification as well. We've also renamed on the left-hand navigation the relationships button to say view BP relationships. So that's a little bit more specific for you as well. Let's see, did I forget anything? Oh, and you can backdate your relationship up to 90 days historically. We internally will have the ability to backdate it if you need it to be a different date for whatever reason, but this should make it a lot easier going forward. Okay, and there's only one permission set for this, and that's the business partner employer maintenance permission set. Do I have any questions on that before I go into the next one? I like it. Okay. The next one is all about system security. Starting in March, we will now be automatically deactivating contacts in myCalPERS for appointments where a permanent separation, a state agency site change, so that doesn't really apply to you, or a retirement date is entered. And this will apply to appointments for retirement. So if it's a retired annuitant appointment, like a health-only appointment or any kind of non-PERS appointment, those are excluded from this process. The other thing to note is that if a member, participant, employee has multiple appointments and you only permanently separate one, they will still be able to have access. So that's something to keep in mind. We're using a census date of December 1st, 2019. So anything that happens from that date going forward will be included in our automation. Anything prior to that date is still going to be up to the System Access Administrator to go through and audit and make sure the right access is given to the right people and any access is removed. And we did make updates to our Cognos report that relates to this to help you with maintaining your security and your records. If for any reason you need to reactivate a contact after our batch runs through and does this automatically, you will still be able to do that by going through and reactivating that contact and then re-adding their system access. We are making changes to our student guide, and we hope to have these as soon as we can close to the release. So keep your eye on our My Messages to let you know when that has been updated. And then lastly, going along with this, because this was such a change to security, we did make enhancements and updates to the security agreement terms and conditions, as well as static text on a couple of pages that relate to security and access. We're asking, or we put in there a reminder so users don't share their username and password, and this is really to help you with your security and with their security. Everybody's going to have to read the new terms and conditions again on March 9th when you log back in and accept those. And that's all I had. Did you guys have any questions about that? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan and Tony. Okay, great. Next up is Andrea Harris. She'll be speaking about employer education for schools.
Good morning, everyone. Notice the theme this morning. We have a lot of talk about education. I'm here to share with you educational opportunities that we offer for schools. I'm the team leader of Employer Education Unit 1. My team provides business rules. I think our folks from LA County might have been referencing the fact that we've been coming out annually and for their county office been providing education. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So what I'm going to share with you today are the 3 ways that we can help you educate yourselves and your staff, because a lot of what we're talking about today, it's knowledge. If you know ahead of time what the rules are going in, you're less likely to make those mistakes. So some of the opportunities we have, we offer the computer-based trainings. The nice thing about that, they're available 24/7. They're also in small individual modules that any staff can take at your leisure at your desk without leaving the office. The other thing we offer is the myCalPERS training. You've heard about enhancements. We have a lot of things going on with the myCalPERS training regularly. So there's many opportunities for that. The first one is instructor-led. We're traveling to the regional office and a computer lab providing you the training. And I'll go more into the classes that are available through the myCalPERS. Lastly, it's my team that educates with the business rules. And we have 2 main areas of focus. We teach business rules on retirement, and we also have health business rules. So for those of you that contract for health with CalPERS, we focus on that. So I want to take a moment to show you how you access the employer education, because not all of your staff, specifically in the districts, they might want to take the education, they might not have the access. So they would be doing this through their login to the myCalPERS system for the employer. And on the top in the middle, you notice the red box on education. That's your starting. You're choosing the education tab. Then you move to the next line. The second red box towards the middle says classes. And then finally, if you wanted to choose instructor-led or online. So what I'd like to do this moment, right now, I'm going to give you a preview of one of our online CBTs, the computer-based trainings. The nice thing about the computer-based trainings, again, you can take them at any time, but they are small and they're very specific. They're not an hour or 3-hour classes. They might be 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. So I'm actually going to pull one up and I'm going to run through just the first 2 slides to show you what we've done with those. We've added audio narration to the CBTs. So as adults, we have different learning abilities and we learn different ways. So if you're an auditory learner, this would help you learn. Maybe you're a visual learner and you just want to read the text. It provides the opportunity for you to learn in a different manner. And you can also multitask, because instead of watching the screen, maybe you're listening while you're performing another task. So bear with me, and we're going to switch over really quick, and I'm going to preview the agenda just so you can hear what the auditory and the narration sounds like.
myCalPERS out of class reporting. Lesson objectives. Upon completion of this lesson, you'll be able to understand the law requiring out-of-class reporting, understand the penalties associated to the law, understand the 2 different notifications which may be sent to you, report when you don't have out-of-class appointments, report out-of-class validation, associate labor agreements and pay schedules, and maintain supporting documents. Note, this training is intended only for public agencies and schools.
Didn't even notice. Alrighty. Well, would you believe we spent an hour and a half yesterday making sure that would work? So the audio is awesome. You get to hear what the lady sounds like. What you didn't get to see is the actual slide. So yeah, the idea was to show you the slide while she's talking through it. Basically, the narration reads the information that's on the screen for you, so you don't have to just focus. But we've done about half. So far, half of all the computer-based trainings now have narration with them. And we're making our way to have all of them. So that was the first type of training I wanted to share with you. The next thing we have is the myCalPERS training. Many of you are familiar with that. The myCalPERS training, hands-on experience in a computer lab. We have a yearly schedule that's out on our website. We visit the regional offices 2 to 3 times each per year and offer a variety of classes. So I want to share with you the different types of classes and some of the most popular ones. And the classes range from an hour to 3 hours. They're not all the same. So we have enrollment-focused classes, whether you want to focus on learning how to enroll or health enrollment. It depends on what your business needs are. And the interesting thing about the classes is when we teach classes, whether it's system training or business rules, a lot of times we hear, well, the district doesn't use the myCalPERS, and that may be true. However, the data that we collect is the same, whether they're doing file upload or the system. So keep that in mind, especially when we talk about the business rules, because we're telling them why they're giving you the data that you're going to turn around and input. So some specialized courses that we have, we're listing the most popular ones that we see schools attend. The payroll reporting, where you can learn to create, modify, or adjust your payroll. We also have the payroll adjustments. You can view posted reports. You can learn the tricks to make your adjustments a little easier and smoother. And then employer reports. We heard this morning, you mentioned the retired annuitant. You can check their hours at their work because there's a lot of reports if you only knew that they were out there to help you. Okay? So we have a lot of opportunities. For the business rules, that's my team. We have retirement business rules. All the topics you've been discussing this morning are in our 3-hour class. We have a heavy focus on membership enrollment because we want you to know that it's the law. You have to enroll somebody within 90 days. We talk about the arrears that can happen when you don't. We talk about the letters for retired annuitants. But that's a great opportunity for your staff. Number one, it can be a refresher. You can come back every year and learn again, or if you have new staff. Okay, we're going to teach them a foundation so that when they're reporting, they have a good starting point and they're less likely to make those errors. For the health business rules, this is a 2.5-hour class, and health business rules focuses on your health benefits officer, teaching and educating about the enrollment and eligibility of your employees, when they get coverage, how they qualify for coverage, and we cover those in the health business rules. So what I really wanted to focus on today is sharing the types of education, but I want to highlight the fact that not only do we visit the regional offices, we come to you. So we offer county-wide presentations, and we have several counties that we have partnerships with, and we're visiting every year. And it's become a regular thing for both the county to invite all of their districts, and a regular thing for us to know that, hey, we're going back out to Orange County, or perhaps we're going to LA. It's just a regular cycle. The wonderful thing about the county office opportunity, we're coming to you. You get to control the message. So my team or myself, we're sharing the information of the Pearl. We're explaining why you're doing it. But when the COE is there with all the districts, you can massage that a little bit. Okay, here's why you're doing it. Here's how we'd like you to do it. So all your staff gets the same message at the same time. Some of the successful relationships that we have, Los Angeles, our last training there, we had 59 students. We've been to Orange County with Vina. She's a regular requester of our services, and we had 74 students at our last training. We also partnered with the myCalPERS system training, and we provided both on site. Ventura, we've been there with 69 students, and tomorrow I have staff visiting Santa Cruz, and we're expecting 50 participants that are coming from Monterey and San Benito. So it's been very successful for us. We hope that it will be successful for you. If you're not familiar with our training and the opportunity, please reach out to us. We have a mailbox, CalPERS _employer_ communications at calpers.ca.gov. I want to take one last moment to introduce my co-team leader. If you could come on up, Annette. So joining me here, this is Annette Ponce. I am the team leader for the team that does business rules. We teach you the law. We teach you why you're doing it. Annette is the team lead for the myCalPERS system training. She's teaching you the how. Okay? So either one of us, if you need our services and you want us to come to you, please let us know, because we would happy to do that for you. Okay? At this time, if you have any questions, and I will field your question first, because I was here early and Vina was the first one, and she said, instead of the 3-hour class that you always have, why don't you have just an update class? And that was a great question and a great recommendation. And I thought about that this morning. And I think we'll think about that more if that's an option for us, because she's one of the counties that they come back. And if their students miss, they'll show up at the regional office for class. But it's the same information, because 90% rinse and repeat. We're giving you the same foundation for success, but that 10% is what's new. I'm not sure that 10% is going to warrant a separate class. But as legislation changes or policies change, we constantly update our presentation, so they're sprinkled in there. But we will definitely take that under consideration. Yeah.
Can you repeat the mailbox, please?
You got it. Be happy to. It's CalPERS _ employer _ communications at calpers.ca.gov. The other way you can contact us is through your myCalPERS account. In the upper left in the common tasks, the drop down, use the inquiry. And the inquiry would go to employer education, and that comes directly to us if you want to request services at your office. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So next up is Angelica. She'll be speaking about survivor benefits.
Hi, my name is Angelica Santillan, and I am a staff services analyst in the pre-retirement survivor benefits unit here at CalPERS. And I also have my peer, Alexis Woodyard, and she will be assisting me in answering any questions you all may have. So during the presentation, I'll be going over pre-retirement death benefits, including when and how to report the death of a member, and the death benefits that are payable when a member passes away prior to retirement. There will be time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, so if you have any questions, I do ask that you please hold them until the end. So beginning with how and when to report the death of a member. When an employee passes away, please notify CalPERS as soon as possible so that we can ensure that the death report is submitted properly by our CalPERS staff. You will need the member's date of death on hand, as well as the name, address, and phone number of their closest survivor. If their closest survivor is a spouse or registered domestic partner, then we will also need their date of birth and the date of marriage or registration. These dates help us determine what benefits may be payable. We also ask that you complete the report of separation for death and fax it over to us at the number that is provided at the top of the form. The report of separation for death can be obtained through our external websites under forms and publications. And we do require that employers complete this form on all member death cases. When you're able to complete and submit this form to us timely, then it provides us with the information that we need to process death benefits as accurately and timely as possible. It also allows you to provide us important information regarding the member's time base, unused sick leave, and health coverage. So this is what the report of separation for death looks like. Please keep in mind that the top portion will already be completed with the member's information prior to sending it over to you. And I'll be going over each section on the form and how to complete it. Part 1 is information regarding the member's separation, time base, and required hours. In this example, the member separated on October 2nd, 2019, and their last day on pay was October 1st, 2019. So please keep in mind that the last day on pay cannot be after the date of death or separation date. The reason for separation in this example was death, and the more information you're able to provide on this section, the better, because it helps us determine what benefits are payable, especially if the member separated prior to their date of death. And in this example, the member was a part-time member, so the required hours for the entire membership period must be provided. This information is also very important because it helps us determine what benefits are payable, and it may be used in the calculation and possibly increase the benefit amount or make the member vested. So in this example, the member works from August 1st, 2012, which was their membership date, to December 31st, 2014, and they worked 30 out of 40 hours a week. From January 1st, 2015 to October 1st, 2019, they worked 20 out of 40 hours a week. If there are additional periods with different required hours, you may attach a separate piece of paper with the additional information. Part 2 is information regarding the member's unused sick leave and educational leave at the time of separation. So in this example, the member had 36 hours of unused sick leave and 4 days of educational leave credit. It's important that you provide exact amounts because this information can possibly be used in the calculation and make the member vested. Part 3 is information regarding the member's health and dental insurance. So if your agency elects to administer health benefits through CalPERS, then this section will need to be completed so that we can see what coverage the member had and who their covered dependents were. So in this example, the member had Kaiser Health Insurance and Delta Dental Insurance, and they had Jane Doe as their covered dependent for both. Part 4 is to be completed by the employer. And we do ask that you please clearly print your name and provide your telephone number and extension number. There will be times where we will need to call you for clarification on the information you have provided or if we need additional information. Next, I will be going over the pre-retirement death benefits, beginning with lump sum benefits. So a lump sum benefit is the member's return of contributions and interest, and this benefit is always payable or electable. It includes the member's contributions and interest through the date of death, and it is the minimum amount a beneficiary will receive. An example for when the return of contributions and interest would be the only benefit payable is if a member separated from their CalPERS covered employer and the separation was not due to an illness or injury that prevented the member from working. And at the time that they passed away, they had been separated for more than 4 months from their CalPERS covered employer. Another lump sum benefit is the employer share. Although the name of this benefit is employer share, I do want to clarify that it is not the employer's contributions. This benefit is payable if the death was within 4 months of separation, or if the member separated due to an illness or injury that prevented them from working. And it consists of 1 month's average earnings for each year worked, up to a maximum of 6 months. So if a member had 1 year of service credit, then 1 month of employer share would be paid. Or if they had 2 years of service credit, then 2 months of employer share would be paid. And so on and so forth until the maximum of 6 months is reached. Next is monthly benefits. An eligible spouse or registered domestic partner must be married or registered for at least 1 year or prior to the onset of illness or injury. So, for example, if a member was diagnosed with a terminal illness and they decided to get married after the diagnosis, but unfortunately they passed away within 1 year of their marriage date, then the spouse would not be eligible for a monthly benefit. If there's no spouse or registered domestic partner, then the monthly benefit would be payable to unmarried, biological, or adopted children under the age of 18. The 1957 survivor benefit is a monthly benefit that is contracted by school employers, and it is equal to 50% of the service retirement and modified allowance. And it is calculated as though the member had retired on their date of death. And any credit for unused sick leave may be used in the calculation if it is contracted by the employer. There are some members who do not pay into Social Security and may elect to enroll in the 1959 survivor benefit. This benefit is payable if the employer contracts for it and the member passed away prior to retirement with eligible survivors. There is no service credit requirement for this benefit to be paid, and school employers contract for the 5th level, 1959. So an eligible spouse or registered domestic partner who do not have care of eligible children must attain the age of 60 to receive the benefit. If they are under the age of 60 but have care of eligible children, then they may qualify for this benefit until the children are no longer eligible or no longer in their care. And children may qualify for this benefit if they are unmarried and under the age of 22. And stepchildren are also eligible if they were in a parent-child relationship with the member at the time of death. An adult child who has a disability that prevents them from being gainfully employed may receive the benefit beyond the age of 22, provided that the disability began before they attained the age of 22. And lastly, the 1959 can be paid with other benefits. So if a spouse elects to receive the 1957 monthly benefit, they may also receive the 1959. Or if they elect the lump sum benefit, then they may also receive the 1959. If you would like additional information regarding pre-retirement death benefits, you may visit our external website under Active Members and then Death Benefits tab. And there you will find our 1-800 number to report a member's death, as well as additional information regarding our application process, beneficiary designation, and benefits payable. Are there any questions on the information that I went over?
Hi, we had a question from the mailbox. So is it the responsibility of the district to report the death or the family member?
It just depends. It can be both. So the employer can do it for the family member, or the family members can also call.
In section 1, under the separation date I thought was the day after their last day with you. So the day that they're no longer your employee. But in the note, it says that it's the last day that the member is considered an employee.
It's okay if it's after the date of death, but the separation date does mean that it is the last day that they were considered an employee. So sometimes it's different than the last day that they were physically in there.
Well, it would
employed.
always be different. So It would match the separation date that's in the myCalPERS system, correct?
Yes.
Which is the day after they're no longer your employee.
Yes, correct.
So it's not the last day they're your employee, it's the next day. Your note says that it's considered the last day that they were your employee. Your separation date's the next day.
Yeah, so it's okay if it's the day after, if it's just a 1 day difference.
So maybe I'm not asking the question quite right.
On the form, it does state that it can be, sorry. On the form, it does, excuse me. It does state that it can be the day that they're no longer your employee. When it's reported into the system will automatically make the separation date the day after. Some agencies will separate them the day that they died. When it's reported into myCalPERS, the system reports it the day after. Okay. And even though the system does that, if the separation date is their date of death, which is the day before, it's fine for you to list that. It's not going to make a difference in our system as far as the date that you list on the report of separation versus the date that's in myCalPERS, because we can always make that adjustment.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so this brings us to our roundtable portion of the event. So that would be Brad and Jennifer. Come on up.
Good morning, everybody. So since I have you all in rapt attention here, the one thing that we have happening that's going to be coming up in the next few months is we're going to be releasing draft regulations related to employment relationships. So just to give you a little bit of background, and this has to do with both independent contractors and whether, so I know there was that question earlier about retirees coming back as independent contractors. So this will deal with independent contractors versus employees. It also begs the question of when you hire someone from a third party, are they your employee or are they the third party's employee? So, and I'll tell you right now, they're your employee. They're not the third parties. But let's just cut to the chase. So, but what is happening is we have. In the past, we've always been able to make these determinations based on the case law that we have, based on the CalPERS precedential decisions that we currently have in place. There was a case recently that the board adopted, and when I say recently, 2019, that was adopted by the board unanimously. It's called the Fuller decision. So the retiree's name was Fuller. I don't recall her first name. The employer was Cambria Community Services District, and it had to do with determining, in this case, it actually wasn't independent contractor versus employee. It was an individual that was hired via a third party. So in this case, it happened to be Regional Governmental Services, I believe. And so, but it talked through the determinations that we use in both of those situations, whether it be an independent contractor versus an employee, or if it's the situation where you're utilizing a third party. And we utilize the common law control test. So that's what this ALJ's administrative law judge's decision went through, was looking at that common law control test with the primary factor, who controls the manner and means of the work, and then also looking at those secondary factors that are part of Tyberg. So we have the language drafted, and we're continuing to work with several stakeholder groups in providing the draft language of that. And then those will be going out probably summertime. It will go to our board for review and potential release for public comment. So I just wanted to make sure that gave you a heads up that that's coming. Questions? Okay, a couple.
I didn't catch how you were going to be publishing that. Is that going to be through a circular letter or some other means?
So it's actually drafted regulations. So they will be going out through our board and it'll go through the public comment period. The likelihood is that it'll go through we almost always end up going through 2 public comment periods. We may end up also having a hearing on it. But ultimately, if approved, they would go through to the Office of Administrative Law for publication at the end of the process. And then there's a question back there.
Thank you, Paul Orapel, San Juan Unified. Is this a result of the new law that was put into play, AB5, which has the ABC test? When you say the first determinator and then subject, are you talking about the ABC rule?
No. So, however, if you look at the ABC test, so we are subject to the common law control test. So, when we're reviewing to determine whether or not they're an employee for CalPERS purposes. However, if you look at the ABC test and you look at the common law control test, they're not in perfect alignment, but they are very close in alignment, is what I would say. If you take a look at the application.
So your circular will say how CalPERS will interpret whether the employee is a
employee for CalPERS purposes. Where the potential, I think it's very narrow, but there is a possibility based on when you review the 2, right? You review AB5, because AB5 came out of Dynamex, which was a Supreme Court decision. I see a lot of heads nodding. Yes, we know about it. And so then that was what turned into AB5. So we do not believe we were subject to Dynamex because that had to do with wage orders. But still with AB5, we still believe we're subject to the common law control test. And so, yeah, there's a very narrow possibility that we would not consider them employees for CalPERS purposes, but based on the ABC test, you could consider them employees. I think it's a very narrow possibility. For the most part, like I said, they are pretty well aligned. Any other questions? All right, the one other thing I was going to do before I turn it over to Brad and Jennifer for questions is I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce our new Deputy Executive Officer. Any of those of you that have been around for a couple years would already know him. And many of you know Donna Lum. She retired in December, and she's been sending him and I pictures of everywhere she's been, and I am extraordinarily jealous. So, yeah, every time she sees a picture, don't talk to me because it's sometimes angry. But she is enjoying a well-deserved retirement, and so her successor that was hired was Anthony Sweeney. So he's our new Deputy Executive Officer for Customer Services and Support, and he snuck into the back of the room when I started talking. So do you want to come up, say hi? I'm going to force you to talk now. You got the job, dude. Man, now you got to do it. Like, peace out. I'm done.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I think probably 85% of the room I know. So all I need to say is new job, same me. Very supportive of the school employers and advocating on behalf of the employees and helping the districts and county offices get through any issues. So really supportive of this group and happy to help however I can, but this team has you pretty well taken care of, and if there's any issues or I need to be at anything or you need my input on anything, you know, I love to give it. So I'm happy to be in this new role and just getting my feet under me as I take this on and still do my old job until we get somebody in there in this next, I'll say, couple months, hopefully. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Anthony. Okay, and with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer and Brad. Good luck.
Fire away. Does anyone have any questions that Brad or I or our wall of experts can answer? Oh, I was like,
I know. I thought you were going to bring your own mic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a little one. It's not a question, actually. It's a request.
Okay.
Like I was mentioning about arrears in general, not the 90-day, any arrears or any enhancements and all. Whenever PERS has that, if we can have little more, a longer notification, like in arrears 60 days or any enhancement, because sometimes we have to adjust our system.
Right.
We have to convey to the districts. So if you post it like next week, it becomes a little harder
Right.
for us to kind of go through the process.
Of course.
So I was just requesting, like, if we can have little longer timelines for things, just 60 days for arrears and other things, whatever you ask for.
We are working on getting, for the arrears in particular, I mean, first off, duly noted, and that's been brought up before, and we've been more conscientious whenever we do have system enhancements, that we let all of our employers know well in advance, because we know that you need to also work with your vendors to try to update your payroll reporting system or your membership reporting to get it tested and all the rules built. Plus, a lot of times you need some kind of documentation, right, so they can do what they need to do. So, yes, we are more cognizant of that. For the arrears, we actually are working on a circular letter right now. We are going to go through two different phase approach, one of which probably won't impact the third-party vendors, but the payroll one will, which is targeted for roughly December. So we're going to get you that information well in advance. We're hoping to get it out to you at least 7-8 months in advance before it goes live.
Okay, and other thing, I know Andrea had talked to her this morning about that training. Like sometime people, they have attended several times these trainings.
Yes.
They are only looking for new things. And she was very gracious to say that she's going to look into it. What I forgot to mention at the time, and I hate to keep taking mic over and over, is about training for our charters.
The charter schools?
Yeah. So we also need training for them.
Okay.
You know.
Duly noted. We'll talk to our team that provides the employer training, and I do know that, like Renee and Jennifer had mentioned before too, we're also willing to, when we're out and about doing other presentations for some of our employers too, we'll make sure to incorporate the charters as well as part of that plan.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
We also have
Just
a question.
1 second.
Do we have any updates on CalPERS retirees and Social Security?
So we don't have any updates today. We're still working with the Social Security Administration. They have not finalized their information for us, so no updates on that today.
So an update regarding your charter schools, they're welcome to attend any business rules training that we offer, or the myCalPERS system training if they're using the system, because we do educate a lot of charter schools.
Yeah, the problem is their setup is way different than where they attend the regular.
Yes, I understand they're set up different. So our philosophy for that is because when we talk about, I think you're talking about like file reporting and stuff, our philosophy is we're giving them the foundation as to why. So we're explaining the rules as to like the 90-day enrollment and the rules for retired annuitants, not so much on the system side, but getting them to understand why they're reporting what they're reporting. But we offer the training for all. So they're more than welcome to come, and if we need to specialize it for them, we'd be happy to do so.
Yeah, at least if you put down charters, at least it will catch their attention.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. So normally when we enter separations for a member, we get an error message if there are earnings reported past the separation date. I received an email today from one of my employees saying that they're not getting that error message anymore. So they called the call center and they said it had something to do with changes made to the way state and Cal States report payroll, and that possibly was a glitch. So I just wanted to know if you were aware of it and if it will be.
We are now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because if not, I know my friend Carlos in the back of the room will be emailing me next year to make a lot of payroll corrections.
We have our systems people on it right now. We're taking a look into that.
Okay, thank you. And then a second question regarding interest for projected contributions. I was wondering if there will be at some point like a detail like report available to give us a breakdown of which members were assessed interest, because at this point I don't know who was assessed interest and I don't know what employer to pass those charges down to.
I'll have to talk to our financial office to see if there's anything in the works. I'm sure someone's taking down a note from our SEAC team, so we'll forward that over to them and they'll provide a response to everybody on that.
Okay, thank you. I was told that once the record is confirmed, that information kind of disappears, so then I'm not able to go back and see who should pay for those charges.
Hi,
thank you.
Actually, we do have a report, and I will find out what the name of the report is. Once you confirm, are you talking about confirming on posted payroll, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
once it generates interest and the
we
record
do
has
have
been
a way
confirmed.
to get that, and I'll find out what the report is,
Okay.
And send it out through the
Thank you.
mailbox.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Megan. Phone a friend. All right.
Any other questions?
I heard that.
So I wanted to thank you for the circular letter regarding the salary schedules that was sent out recently. But I have a question.
Sure.
If we send a salary schedule to the MOU mailbox, what is the turnaround time?
We want to try to turn it around within 2-3 days, within a couple days. It just depends. I mean, sometimes we get these really massive pay schedules that have several pages, believe it or not. But if it's just a quick review of like your existing pay schedule, like 1-2 page document, it shouldn't take us more than a couple days to get that done.
If we're in a situation to where they're at the negotiation table and we need maybe a 24-hour, can we request that? And
yeah, just when you email the box, just in the body of the note, just type that, hey, we're under a time crunch here. Anything you can do to get this expedited, and we'll make sure to get that done. We normally turn them around by the next day. The pay schedules are a little easier to check. The MOU reviews sometimes can take a little longer, though. Those are a little more, there's more to it, right? Okay.
We have another question from the mailbox. Does the Fuller decision apply to retired annuitants getting paid by a third party? The third party is invoicing the school district.
So yes, it does. The Fuller decision actually was, I believe, an individual who is working for a third party. So that would apply if you have a retiree. We look at them the same way as far as whether they're an independent contractor or a retiree. It's the same common law test that Renee spoke to earlier. So the short answer is yes, it would apply. Anything else?
Any other questions? You guys are letting us off easy today.
Thank you. Say thank you.
Thank you.
If you think of anything else, feel free to email the box. So before we break for lunch, I do have a couple of things I want to let you know. First of all, thank you for taking the time out of your busy morning to listen to our CalPERS staff. And also, there's a couple events on the horizon that I wanted to let you know. The board meeting this month will be February 18th and 19th. Feel free to come and visit in person in the auditorium as well as online. And also, it's never too early to start planning for the CalPERS Ed Forum. I did want to let you know that it's earlier than usual this year. It will be September 30th through October 2nd this year, so it's almost like a month sooner than usual. And that's going to be down in Anaheim.
And it's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
It's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so yes, different weekdays as well.
And Vena's still going to ride the Matterhorn with me.
Good. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know where lunch will be served. It's going to be in rooms 1170 and 80, which is just all the way around the auditorium doors and right back here. So there's 2 different rooms, and there's going to be signs posted all along the way. And the next SEAC will be here on May 12th. And CalSTRS will be here at 12:30. So go ahead and have a great lunch and be back in the room at 12:30 for CalSTRS. Thank you.